While I make every effort to broadcast correct information, I'm also still learning. I will double check all my facts, but realize that healthcare is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor or healthcare provider may have a different way of doing things from another. I welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. I take no money from supplement or device companies. By listening to this podcast or reading this blog, you agree not to use this podcast or blog as medical advice or to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your healthcare provider for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast or the website. Under no circumstances shall any guests or contributors to the podcast or blog or any employees, associates, or affiliates of the Boss Body podcast be responsible for damages arising from use of the podcast or the blog. This blog or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing the standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or the blog.
What's up, guys? It's Dr. Tim Jackson with another episode of the Boss Body Podcast. Brain health, fascia, mitochondrial health, mental health, they're all connected. So I brought in an expert, Dr. Stephanie Rimka. Welcome to the show, Dr. Rimka.
It's so great to be here. Well, that's a tall order right there. We've got about 40 minutes or so. That's a lot to cover, but we'll do our best.
Absolutely. So I know your specialty is brain health, neurological health. And I know you used to work in a mental hospital in Michigan. So what took you from there to chiropractic school?
Well, I was taking a year off to decide, when I was going to go to medical school, right? And I'm like, well, this is going to be at least 8 years because I was deciding between orthopedic surgery or child psychiatry. And I had two of my mentors in college, different ones were pushing me both ways, right? And I think it was like almost a battle of, this is 1995. There weren't many women doing either of these. And they're like, I'm 5'11", I was a college athlete, you have to be big and strong being an orthopedic surgeon. And one guy was like, a professor was like, come on, you're going to kill it. You're going to make so much money. He's like, you don't understand. He's basically saying like, you could dominate this field and it's so unheard of. There's not many, but you could do it because a small woman can't, a small man can't do this. Right. You got to be able to drill and saw and lift, be strong and you have the ability. And I was an athlete. It made a lot of sense, but I loved psychology. So my psychology professor was saying, here's the reality though, Stephanie. Psychiatry, these kids are being born damaged and sick. And in his world, they're going to need medication, right? And I didn't really know any better. So I've been getting adjusted since I was 16 for a sports injury. And I just thought of it like for back pain. And I was a terrible patient. And I would go and say, fix me. And then I would stop when I was better. And then I'd go abuse my body. And then I would go back, all through college. But I broke my back in a college soccer game. And it led to different states of paralysis. And then telling me I was never going to play again, never going to run again.
Like a spondylolisthesis or?
I broke L5 and herniated L5S1. And so I lost all sensation and motor control of my right leg. So I had to get traction for an entire summer to bring in. And I would then go back. As soon as I felt better, I would try to start training again. And I'd go for a run and then I'd be paralyzed and I would come home and cry, I couldn't move my right leg a lot. And it would just be back and forth. And I just didn't do well with the idea when an orthopedic surgeon said that to me. I'm like, yeah, I don't know who you think you're talking to. Take me to my chiropractor. So I was literally carried in at one point by another chiropractor, unable to walk and sat on a table screaming to my chiropractor. And basically, I just believed he could fix it and I could be fixed. I don't know what you're talking about. We're not cutting me. And that's nonsense. I'm not going to be in a wheelchair. So let's go. So I, at 19, just used visualization and my chiropractor and built it back. I was formally taught visualization in the 6th grade in school. I didn't realize that was such kind of an avant-garde thing to be taught in a private Catholic school, but I was, and I've been using it ever since. And I was also taught self-hypnosis by that
The
same
school system taught you that?
I was taught visualization in the classroom in Catholic school in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And I used it ever since. It was like a light up moment in 6th grade for me. It was incredible. So I would do it all the time. And then in college, that same professor who wanted me to be a child psychiatrist, Ed Bujos, he taught me self-hypnosis. And I would do that all the time as well. So I had these 2 tools that I was always using. And so kind of I use that to heal myself along with chiropractic. And, but I still didn't want to be a chiropractor because I wanted to be a real doctor. So I graduated, I was just kind of torn, and I was kind of in a existential crisis of saying, do I really want to be a surgeon, or am I just doing this for money and respect? Because I grew up very
Validation.
poor. Yeah, like I grew up really poor, and I got through that experience of my back, which then led to my thyroid crashing and my body hurting all the time, just all these problems. They couldn't help me. And so everything I was doing, and eventually I finally was like, these people are really stupid. Like every doctor I go to is a moron, right?
Yeah.
But, and they always were enticing me my senior year when I was applying to medical schools about how much money I was going to make. And the chiropractors I knew never talked about that. They talked about how many people I was going to help, and that I'd have quality of life and I wouldn't be chained to a pager. And I was like, I don't know, So I decided to take a year off. I delayed admission. I was able to do that. And I got a job. I was working in a mental hospital with schizophrenics. I was a caseworker trying to ascertain and assess of the women, female schizophrenics, who were high functioning enough to go into group homes and live in these group homes. So I would go back and forth and be working in a group home and then go back over here and that kind of thing. So it was fascinating. And as I read through case studies of them, it was horrifying. I was horrified at what I saw medicine and psychiatry doing to people. I said that I was like, this can't be what we do, right? So I was really torn with, I wanted to help them. I was brought to tears many times reading the horror stories and just what would happen to them, the abuse and everything. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I was being adjusted though. I was going to a chiropractor, and my mood was shifting because my back was hurting. And so, but in my mood, I really recognized at 22, something very different about my mental health at that point. And I said to him, I said, I'm going to ask you something that I've noticed, because I've been doing this since I was 16. I come and I go, and I come and I go, and I come and I go. But it's not good when my back hurts, when the disc, when I lose feeling, and so I come back, right? But I'm totally different. Like I'm happier. I think differently. I engage differently. I'm like, that can't be just from the pain, Keith. Like, what's going, like, is this related? And when he had a conversation, and he saw 500 people a week, right? And he brought out the Sharpie on the thing on the whiteboard, they're backed up. Like people, it was kind of getting bad. His wife came in, who was a manager, Keith, and he's like, they have to wait. This is important. And it was like this God moment for us. And he was writing it all down, explaining the nervous system, the afferent, the efferent, and how it really happens. And I just went, wait, what? So the schizophrenics need to be adjusted. He goes, yeah. I said, where do I go? He goes, Atlanta. I moved 6 months later. So it was just oh my God, I can't believe I missed this. And he said, like, you better know that you really want to do this. Please understand, they won't respect you. If you want the white coat, if you want to be that, Stephanie, I want you to be the best one that ever was. I want you to, you know what I mean? Like, just know you're not going to have the same thing. You'll be a salmon, always swimming upstream. Are you okay with that? I'm like, I've been the black sheep for forever, I guess. And I really was. I had to look at my ego and go, am I okay with that?
Right.
But I knew that I knew. I'm like, this drug route is not what I want. I don't even take Tylenol anymore. He had pounded this into me enough. I fixed my own thyroid disorder against what they said. I fixed my own back. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. So that's how I went to school, with a totally different mentality with the naivety that I could adjust people and get rid of their schizophrenia. I learned that wasn't quite what I needed to do. So I had to go down many other routes of genetics and labs and everything else. But that's kind of what started it. I just knew right away. It's like, no, I'm not going after the Mercedes and the boat. I'm going after helping people the way I believe it's right. And I'm actually disgusted by this system. So why would I want to be a part of it?
And
So,
it's interesting to me that people perceive real doctor as having a prescription pad.
absolutely. I
Doctor
get it
means
all the
teacher.
time.
If
I
you're
get it
not
all the
learning
time.
something, I
Yeah.
mean, if your doctor's not teaching you something, your healthcare provider's not teaching you something at every visit, then you need to find a new provider.
Right. And sadly,
Because
they can't. I'm friends
right,
with a tremendous amount of physicians, and we're down to something like 8 to 9% are in private practice at this point that are not hospitalists. That's you have a very small that decided that they wanted some sovereignty and some self-control. And it takes a big risk for them to say, I'm going to open a brick and mortar. I'm going to try to figure this out and run a business. And many of them then said, I have to go cash. That is even scarier. I know many excellent physicians that have retired in Atlanta in the last 5 to 7 years because they realized they went root cause. They're trying to go functional. They're trying to talk and teach and spend time with their patients. They're trying to learn methylation and how to change that and not use drug approaches. They're trying to do IVs and ozone. And they didn't know how to run a business outside of insurance. And once insurance stopped paying them, they wrote these letters. Like it was hard. It took many, it was hard. Like they were in tears. I can't lie. And I don't know, they didn't know how to do it. And they just went on and did other careers, either retired or are like corporate researchers now or something. And it's really sad. So it takes a certain type of physician to even go there, right? And then you got overhead and it's hard. My first
I was
visit with a patient is 3 hours long. Like
wow,
I got to charge for that. You know
right,
what I mean? That's just getting history. That's
yeah,
just getting information. And then I got to come up and tell you what to do. And that's going to take us months. I don't take it. It's a minimum 6 months. Usually it's
right.
going to take longer because it takes a long time to teach people
Well, let's
completely new concepts, right?
absolutely, and along the same lines, I hear people all the time. Well, what's my root cause? There's never outside of trauma and pregnancy. There's never just one root cause, right?
Well, I can say there is. To me, the root cause is your electromagnetic potential is extremely low. You no longer conduct high levels of electricity, and your battery is running out, and you can't retain. Either you can't make battery power, or you can't hold it. And then we have to figure out why is that,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I mean, we're biochemical beings, but more so we're biophysical beings, and the biophysics drives the biochemistry,
Yeah,
meaning our
and the
environment.
chemistry is so far up, really, from the electromagnetism, right?
Yeah,
You have sound that is first. That's really forgotten, but the signal that we're getting is light, right? So
right,
it's really light coming in from the sun. Sound is making the light. It's a very weird thing with sound and light, what goes on, and how we take that information in and transduce it into all the electromagnetic impulses that we need. The chemistry is so actually much later, but that is what
right,
patients really are obsessed with because we've
right.
been brainwashed and indoctrinated by the Rockefeller medicine system. And it's all about chemistry, where actually, we could just, if people really focused on, light, water, magnetism, sound, and frequency, that's the foundation of everything, and what that really is doing to water of the system, that's where all the magnetic electrical potential charges. So it's like, are you a 9-volt battery? Are you a 2-volt? 2 volts,
Sound
you
like
got one
my
in
friend
the
Jack
grave.
Kruse. You sound
I
like my
trained,
buddy
I,
Jack
I
Kruse.
trained with, I owned him for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So if you go on his website at the bottom, there's different boot camps. The
Yeah.
Heal Your Hormones boot camp is the one I did.
Oh yeah. Are you, so I was like back with his Patreon like 10 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
So I haven't been doing much recently. Just, that's long time. Yeah. Jack
Yeah.
personally looked at my genetics, my sons, when we talked off camera before about my son's, our mold journey, basically. That's when I dove really strong into him. And he was very critical at helping me shift the way I was already board certified in neurofeedback, so I'm a neurofeedback therapist. And so I'm looking at electromagnetic frequencies of the brain, but he helped me put a couple pieces together that I had not understood what I was doing. I knew I was syncing the brain waves into the earth and the Schumann resonance by doing deep state hypnagogic stuff. I knew certain things. I was bringing in light in a rudimentary way on my patients, but Jack put it together in a way that was like mind-blowing. And I'll be forever grateful for him looking at my labs, my son's labs, when I was in the crisis of the mold illness that devastated both of our, neurological health, and basically created me doing an upgrade on myself and my son in such a way that changed my practice forever. That's why, people learn from their own injuries and their own things. It's like, I broke my back, I was paralyzed, I'm real good at fixing it now. I had mold illness, I'm real good at fixing it now, right? Because I bought everything and did everything and understand all of it. And I know how hard it is, but I also know how easy it can be, so once you know the right levers. And Jack really has done something very profound for the entire field.
Yeah, it was back in 2013 when I did the Heal Your Hormones boot camp and wrote a few articles for his website. But I haven't done anything recently.
Yeah.
He's supposed to come on the podcast by the end of the year, beginning of 2024.
He's writing a new book. I interviewed him a little while ago. I wonder where he is with this, because, so much more information is coming in.
He's probably in El Salvador hanging out with Rick Rubin and Andrew Huberman.
Well, he's not a Huberman fan. I don't know if he's hanging out with him, but.
Well, did you see they did
I know their podcast. I know, and he ripped them some new things. Did you see his rebuttals?
Yeah.
I go against the grain. I'm not a Huberman fan.
Huberman, I think, covers all of it. I mean, he talks about the light, not to the extent that Jack does.
He talks about it, but he talks about it, but there's a lot of things that are not correct. He does work for Stanford. I'm going to leave it at that. That's the epitome of Rockefeller medicine.
Yeah.
You got to be real careful who you're listening to out there. There's a lot of people out there. They say enough that's true, and they say enough that's not.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, anytime I hear, just like when I heard about the functional medicine clinic portion of the Cleveland clinic, and patients were like all excited, I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily get excited. It's like the Duke Center. I went to Wake Forest, so I'm not a big Duke fan. Okay. But Duke has a Center for Integrative Medicine. Well, it's really just yoga and probably crop circles. But then they can say, see, I told you this functional medicine stuff, it doesn't work. The patient just did it. It didn't help.
Yeah.
So it's just another way to kind of exclude functional medicine. But to get back on topic with the brain health and neurological health, one thing that you mentioned before is that mental health is brain health. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, most people don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to be a really shitty person today. It's microglial inflammation. It's, neural networks that are offline, reflexes that aren't integrated. I know you do the neurofeedback, but do you also do some of the functional neurology stuff?
Do some. I'm not fully trained. Never went through the whole program. It was hard once I became a mother, and I kind of looked at it, and my friends who are functional neurology, whether it's Carrick, I did a lot with John D'Onofrio before he died. So I'm a huge, D'Onofrio really shaped me all through school and beyond. So I never certified in it, and it just was very impractical in terms of, I can't spend 7 hours. The way you have to do that, it's like 2 weeks of intense boot camp. So I do some of the pieces, but I mostly focus on the 19 channels, the Score Loretta type of training. And I do a lot of sound, integrated listening sound. I do a lot of, again, autism became a huge part of my practice. So my nephew's autistic, so that changed the game when I was in chiropractic school. So I had to go down that route. So a Dan doctor at first, and I'm kind of well beyond that. So I do a lot of different things that they don't necessarily do. And I'm blessed that I'm in Atlanta. And so I would just refer to the Carrick Institute if I needed something. So if I needed a second opinion, or if I needed a joint, I could just get somebody right here with me. So I didn't need to, do I need to spend the money and do that? No, I'm good.
It's always been interesting to me. Like when I lived in Atlanta, patients were so hyper compliant. Like I would ask them to do something once, they would do it 6 times. I would ask them to stay on supplement for a month. They would stay on for 3 months. But
Yeah,
I'm
my
just
patients are very compliant. When people tell me, how do you get, I'm like, I just tell them to do it. Do you not have authority? I don't get it. I mean, I guess by the time they come to me though, they're also like, I am the last resort.
right.
It became and most of my referrals are from therapists or physicians. So at that point, they're going to do whatever I say because it's already been established. I don't have to win anything over. Like that, they go, why do you, when it's the psychiatrist, the DBT therapist, or whatever that sent them to me, they're like the wackadoodle chiropractor with all the things plugged in who I practice barefoot, like I don't even wear
Yeah.
shoes. They go, oh, you really don't? He told me you weren't going to wear shoes. I'm like, no, I don't wear them. You shouldn't be wearing them either.
Right.
You got a problem with that? My dog's here. I'm like, yeah, that's how we do it. We're going to talk about weird things and I'm going to hook you up to a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
So I'm this blend of woo woo. I'll wear a mala and chant, but I'm like, well, that one machine's 100 grand, that's 50 grand. So I'm gonna put you up to a knot, but I'm gonna show you science as to what's going on. But I don't separate the physical and the spiritual and the emotional at all. And I let them know very clearly how it's all interconnected. And I'm like, are we sure we need to supplement or do we need to deal with the trauma when you were 6?
I'm
Right?
glad you brought that up. So how do you deal with trauma in the nervous system, whether it's kids or adults?
A multitude of ways. One, by acknowledging it and telling them it's stored in your body. It's stored in the water, right? So the body is holding it, and part of that is in the brain because the brain is a tremendous amount of water and fascia. So fascia is the connective tissue. Let's look at it like this, like lymph is the sewer system, right? And it's full of water, fluids, right? And all the water, our brain, we have crystals in us and like real physical crystals. And like nobody tells you this. Well, what stores energy? I mean, memory better than anything? Crystals. That's why it's in the computers. That's why it's in our watches. It tracks time and they're living things. Well, they're in us. And we grab information from the field. I'm very strongly understand that. You can record my field on many different devices, can show you the light or the light field coming off of me. We emanate light, we emanate magnetic pulses, we emanate electricity. Well, if we emanate it, we receive it, right? So I'm trying to keep people aligned so they're more connected to getting good information, right? They can be very connected to self-source. So I explain that to them. And so I restructure and deal with the brain. So I do photobiomodulation. I've been doing direct transcranial stim, intranasal stim. I do transcranial direct stimulation. I do PEMP, pulse electromagnetic frequency on the brain. I do neurofeedback. Deep states hypnagogic is where I really like eventually, once I stabilize, that's where we go in the unconscious. I've had different practitioners in the office as well. We do Psych K, we do hypnosis, but I really, with deep states, I don't need to do much of anything. I'm also TRE certified trauma release exercises. So that's a form of somatic shaking, basically.
What's the deep states? Sorry to
So
cut
deep
you
states is
off.
alpha theta training,
Okay.
slow wave training, right? We also do infraslow. So I had about 8 different systems that we do. So we kind of decide who's going to do what. But you want to knock out alcoholism, drug addiction, PTSD, unresolved trauma. It's deep states. The end of story.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing that we all do on ourselves. And it's also peak performer. You want to make more money. You want to be better at golf. You want to be smarter. It's deep states. That's where you want to go. And because it takes it expands everything. It just helps you go in and look and you heal it yourself. You're never going to dig something up you're not ready to handle. But
Right.
I'm using light, absolutely infrared light, always 810, and I can pulse and change the brain. I can put you in alpha if I want. I can put you in anything I want with entrainment, right? Using flickering lights and binaural beats and isochronic tones, brain tap, things like that. I love direct stimulation, DC current. I use DC current on the body through the pulsing as well. So I'm changing frequency and upcharging electromagnetic potential, which is the electricity is what goes through the water. So the lymph is like the liquid, which has a crystal. The fascia, think of it as kind of like the fascia and the lymph are really the same. It's just different forms, like water can become ice or liquid
Right.
or vapor or gel. There's many phases of water. So my job is to bring awareness to it, help them physically. So the TRE exercises releases fascia and the water and restructures it as well. It creates the friction, the piezoelectric effect, which creates electricity, which changes the water structure into clusters that communicate differently, align the crystalline highways of communication.
Mhm.
You can do that many ways. Sound does it. I love tuning forks, sound therapy, sound baths, that does it. I have tactile beds that vibrate frequency through sound. So I use tactile and sound in any frequency of the body I want. So 7.83 hertz, Schumann resonance, is the electromagnetic field that's going to drop and change us and start bringing, upregulating electromagnetic potential, right? Between the easy structured water, that, you know, the exclusion zones and the proteins, and it increases the battery power. 9.6 hertz is what the terrestrial land is at, and that's where the mitochondria love. People often in the studies call it 10 hertz. That's fine, you're going to get a good effect, but if you can actually do 9.6, you're going to get a much better effect. So I pulse all of the clinical stations will have 9.6 hertz magnets in it. So I'm just doing things to them, they don't even understand what I'm doing half the time. So I'm in training and changing the mitochondria through PEMF, through light, 10 hertz, and we're always going to do that in the 810. So we're going to flicker it at 10 to put them in alpha. I'm going to flicker it at 40. I'm going to put them into gamma. So when I change the gamma and the gamma theta part of the brain do this coupling, I unlock the memories that are stored in the theta, right? So I can deal with, you have to release it in many ways. Some people say, oh, it's not in the mind. But the mind is an arbitrary whatever. The mind is the field, but the brain is the body, and it's liquid crystalline fascia, right? What do you think all the dura matter is? And all of that stuff is the arachnoid matter, the pia matter. It's extraordinarily important, and keeping that in line, that's what's changing the structure. I mean, what is the communication of the brain? It's fluid. It's this fluid that's moving, and so you have to work on all of it.
Is there a role for, say, the Graston instruments in fascial release?
Yeah, everybody, all of it. John Barnes myofascial release, any of these things are doing it. Absolutely. Even if the doctor if they're just thinking this is for pain and all that, they're doing it. So some techniques are very aware they're going after. Oh, I know, I'm very aware when I'm working on a person. Oh, this is related to what happened when they got beaten at 6, or this is when the father died at 12, or I can tell the body tells me. I tell them explicitly, your body is storing all of this, is why you have this pain, this is why you're frozen shoulder. I connect the pieces and say, your body is telling me everything I need to know, period. And so,
do you find that people are able to hold their adjustments longer because you're doing a multitude of different therapies versus just flying 7?
Yeah, well, that's really, it's like, what is subluxation? Why are you adjusting? Because it's a learning opportunity. It's something, there's energy that got stuck that was higher than their system at that time could handle. And so it didn't know what to do with it. So it's storing it so they can handle it later when they're become aware. Well, if they're in front of me and they lay down or whatever, I'm like, well, clearly you must be ready to know what's going on. I'm going to make you aware of this. And if I let the system be self-aware versus me, the less I have to do, the better, because I'd rather their own body instigate releasing that. So I just have potential energy waiting to be transmuted into kinetic. And if we do it the right way versus me overpowering and going too much too fast when they're not ready for it, then they're really not going to be able to use that energy most likely. And I think that's what's happening, like so many people often aren't holding. There's no awareness of what's happening. The system was overwhelmed with too much release because the doc wanted to give them a great experience. Oh, it was amazing, but then 2 hours later, oh, it's back, right? So I try to put the pieces together for them, and I take my time with it, and that way they can go, oh, right. And it'll often happen when they're doing something themselves, and they'll cry or something. I had no idea. I know now that's related to my divorce, and I've been angry at my ex-wife, and it was because of the battle. Oh my God. And like, now they have a place to work on. Sometimes the awareness lets them deal with it themselves, or if they are in therapy, so now you have something to actually work on forgiving and letting go. And you didn't even know it was hurting you. So one, yes, you have to deal with, let me say, I'll back up to this. How I really saw what was going on with electricity and storing. The greatest therapy in psychiatry is electric shock treatment, ECT. Absolutely, that is the best thing that they do. It's the most successful. The pills are not that good. Electric shock is. However, they're not that great at it yet, but they're getting much better. That's why transmagnetic stim is now, and trans ultrasound stim, they're becoming very effective at this. And I'm like, I'm all for it, because they're using what the brain really is. And if they do the location right, put the frequencies right, it lets the brain heal itself, because you put some electricity and magnetic pulse, everything changes the mitochondria. It's like, oh, and it, because thank you for giving me the energy to self-correct. I was just didn't have enough gas. I couldn't get it done. Right. So when I figured that out, it's like, why though some people, it goes bad again? It's because that brain couldn't hold the charge. It's like, well, it worked, but it can't hold it. It's like the phone, right? Like this, there comes a point on my iPhone, I have to get a new battery. It can't charge it anymore. So we're like, well, the juice is gone. And that's when the juice is gone, we die. So once I figured that out with the brain, it became, wait a minute. That's when I said, I'm no longer taking vegans as patients, because they don't hold the charge. I could fix them, but they got to come all the time. Like, what's going on? Why? So I have to look at all of that, right? So I'm like, okay, if they can't hold the charge in any way, their water is too, they're dehydrated themselves, and they're ruining their structure of water capacity. There's many things that they're doing that work in opposition. And emotions are stored there. So I have to look at all of it. So that brain aspect goes to the whole body. And I just use different techniques to teach them that. But once you start teaching them that, this is why I need you to go out and be in the sunlight. This is why I need you to go barefoot on the grass. This is why you need to be in the ocean. This is why you need to be grounding, because it's changing the interface. It's a transfer of electrical information from your body to the earth. It's just giving you free energy. It's plugging yourself into the wall. You're not doing that enough. That's why you're so tired. And this is why I don't care what supplement you're taking, it's not going to work. It doesn't
I
matter.
sleep on a 10 Gauss Magnetico pad, a la Jack
I'm
Kruse.
9.6. I sleep on 9.6.
Did they? I didn't even know they had. I thought it was
Well,
just
it's
10
a
and
different
20.
device. It's a different
Oh,
device.
okay.
It's called an Earth Pulse. I think it's better than the Magnetico, but you can't buy it anymore because the owner, Paul Becker, had a stroke and they kind of stole his company. So that device is extraordinary. And I do recommend the Magnetico now, because that is the best. It's just it's the best.
Do you want to sell your Earth Pulse?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
If you
Well,
can find one, I'm going to try buying these things as much as I can, or I'm going to try to find somebody who's making it, because it's so small, and I can change anything. I can put you at 1.2, 2.4, 4.8. We basically work in a harmonics, and if I need delta, theta, I can do anything I want with it. But typically 9.6, I'm healing the mitochondria all night long. I could say I could probably hold my breath longer than almost anybody, and I don't do anything for it. It's because of what my mitochondrial capacity is. I can hold my breath for minutes. It feels like I'm a freak. I'm like, I don't know, it's because of this thing. And that literally is a breath test I have people do. We do it, we have put them on this for 3 months, and they do it again. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because we're healing your mitochondria. It's
is
like
it a pad you sleep on?
No, it's a very small magnet that it's under my mattress, and you can have two, but we can't get them right now. So I had to take it off my website. I'm devastated. It was one of my most powerful healing devices. It fixes sleep. I started to tell, like, eventually people, I'm like, well, I do very little neural feedback, and they have this, and we have no sleep disorder. It basically puts like a small Faraday cage on the system too, because it's pulsing that out. It's not a Faraday cage, but it stops the noise of Wi-Fi and radio signals, so I'm a little protected all night long. And it trains my brain into 9.6, but I'm really using it for the mitochondrial repair.
Let's talk about stealth pathogens and mold, because they both obviously create neurological inflammation.
Yep.
And something you said about the water, obviously when you have mold toxicity, like we both have had, and many people have, it lowers antidiuretic hormone. You're peeing more, you're excreting out your electrolytes. And if you're doing the sauna, which a lot of people do for mold detox, you can become hypovolemic. So I think electrolytes which they're called that because they conduct electricity, are super important. How else do you go about balancing water, not just intake in terms of volume, but the quality?
Well, I make sure people are not over drinking. It's a major problem. This whole gallon a day nonsense, it really disturbs me. And I see lots of health coaches, doctors, the heart 75 hard, like all these really popular things. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So one, I teach you about what is clean water. If you're, drinking it, I do want them to have structured water that they're drinking, H3O, not H2O. I get into deuterium with people. I do deuterium depletion, but some of those things you mentioned, right? Infrared sauna is structuring your water. So you want to be structuring yourself. TRE, you're structuring your water. Tuning forks, you're structuring your water. Sunlight, you're structuring your water. Exercise, movement, you're structuring your own water. Infrared sauna, I'm structuring my water. I teach them this is what you're trying to do. The phone is destructuring you. Being in front of a computer, being in front of toxic lights. So I go through changing their home environment, and they're all looking at non-native EMF. I go through the whole thing. There's different devices I do suggest they buy. Again, one of my favorite devices are these DC current, these devices I run 27 volts of DC current on people through their, as the blood passes through the arteries there, it's zapping, right? So I'm structuring with electricity. DC current is a very unique thing. I use PEMF to do it as well. I use different, very low intensity, more like the earth, again, which causes electricity. This is all stuff that's charging their bodies and structuring the water for them. But what they drink is important. I like a few different things. Always want to put minerals in it. It needs to be clean, no fluoride, no, I like steam distillation. Let me tell them to remineralize. I like Quinton water for that. I like cell core CT minerals, and double
Not the
helix
fulvic,
water.
the straight
Yeah,
fulvic.
the CT mineral, that's fulvic. Yeah,
Okay.
all cell cores is carbon technology, fulvic humic. They've done
Okay.
something nobody else has done. They have the best fulvic humic on earth because of how they've stacked it, and it holds more potential energy frequency than
Okay.
anything I've ever seen. Another
Awesome.
product is double helix water.
Yeah,
Very
I've heard of it.
interesting, right? The drop. So tell people, teach them, put some red light, put it in the sun, stir it up, create your own fake spring vortex if you can't get spring water. And that starts to change what you're doing. And even just the consciousness, visualization. I use a tremendous amount of visualization for my patients. I have a course I give many of them. They have got to start understanding the power of their mind to change their own selves. This is how they can create sovereignty and not dependence upon me or anyone else. So I go
Absolutely.
through all of that. I put a lot of minerals in them. I love Epsom salt baths. I do a lot of that stuff too. I like to put pounds in. I send out pounds every day as you're going through. So all of my chelation protocols and stuff, they do include a lot of minerals. And I do run labs and everything to be checking where people are. It is important.
Well, that's awesome, and that's admirable that you're not trying to make people dependent on you. I think a lot of people do that. A lot of providers do that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And there's always going to be enough people to take care of.
Absolutely. I don't understand why anybody thinks I'm like, my goal, I tell them, my goal is, and I deal with schizophrenia, dissociative identity, disorders, PTSD, suicide attempts. I'm the person they come to post hospitalizations. The calls are, they know they've been doing the therapy and they go, this is who you must go to see. And I start the neurofeedback 3 times a week or whatever. I'm dealing with this like absolute, and I tell them my main goal. I know we've done my job when you fired me and everybody else you're seeing. Like, I don't want you going to 2-3 appointments a week to see anybody. And when they come in and say, doc, I'm like, yeah, guess what? What? I fired my psychiatrist because they're off the meds. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, pretty soon you're gonna be done with me too. They're like, you know what? I sleep great. I feel amazing, blah, blah, blah. I think I don't need to see you anymore. I'm like, high five. That's the greatest moment. There is a moment with some of them that I can tell we're getting the end of care. Things are better. They're off the drugs. They're feeling great. The labs are looking different. Depression's gone, whatever. And I have to tell them because they don't want to leave. Then it's like, you are their friend. And I said, you can just stop by and say hi, right? You don't have to be sick. You don't have to have an appointment. You can just send me a card. You can, or you come in once a month. I'll adjust you or something. It's like majority of my practice, I'll say a lot of chiropractors send their people. I don't need to adjust them. I'm doing the brain part. If I'm only doing the brain, then I adjust those people. So I only have to and I don't like adjusting a lot of people. I'm a very select on who I want to put my hands on. So I'm like little kids and the old ladies. That's who I'm kind of going to do, right? That I said, you can just come in and, do a tune-up. You can just do this, or you could just stop by and give me a hug. And that lets them off the hook of you don't have to be paying me for me to care about you, and you don't, and because I don't think enough doctors say that. You don't need to be, they'll stay sick and they'll create it because especially with what we do, I hug my patients. I break the rules I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not touching people. You must be kidding me. That's why I gave up the LPC. I don't want to be a licensed talk therapist because I don't want those rules. I want them. I like when a kid comes up to me and, 7-year-old will grab my face and kiss me. I'm like, and the moms that we just start crying because it's an autistic child who's never done that. And we're like, did that happen? We're just, I'm like, this is why I come here on Saturday. When I used to do it'd always be some magical moment on a Saturday. I'm like, well, I thought I didn't want to come on Saturday, but if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have had this moment. And we're crying and we're losing it. We're happy because she just spoke words for the first time or something just happened for the first time that was a breakthrough. Right. So anyway, I look forward to that moment. Good. Go live your life. Go spend your money and energy building something, creating, that's what you should be doing, not being medicalized.
Absolutely. So you've been practicing for a few years now, because I mean, we know you're 26.
Yeah.
So I think you're like Doogie Howser, graduated at like 21.
Yeah.
But what's something that today that you wish you would have known 5 years ago, wink, wink, i.e. 10 years ago?
Oh, God. Well, 5 years, so much has been revealed in the last few years that even I'm like, wait, what? Like I was ahead of the curve. And even now I go, I got fooled by this, and this, and oh my God, I didn't know. I think if I could have understood the power of photons and electromagnetics really 20 years ago, that would have been a completely different approach to everything. I've spent a lot of time in genetics that I wouldn't have spent. A lot of times in food allergy testing, that's nonsense. A lot of time in things that I just wouldn't, even pathogens, even the whole virus thing, like, wait a minute. Thank God for Andrew Kaufman and Tom Cowan lately. We're like, what? Going after, what Dr. Pollack has done with water and fascia. That's relatively new for me, 5 years or something, 6 years, maybe, Jack, before I really got into it, like even the fascia, I'm like, what? So it's more potent than I even realized. Even though I was using some of these techniques, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't understand why that was happening. So I wouldn't have spent as much time on genetics at all. I'm very versed in that. And I think that's unfortunate. It's fallen into the medical model. I wouldn't have spent time with functional medicine per se, because we're treating things with nutrients. I would have spent more time in consciousness medicine or consciousness teaching, looked stronger into some of the different inputs, different teachers. So that's what I would have done a little differently.
Absolutely. So we're going to put all your links up on the website. I don't know if you're currently accepting new clients, but if you are, what's the easiest website for people to reach you through?
I am. It's, probably it depends on the timing level, wait list kind of a thing. But I do have health coaches, so it's probably the fastest way to kind of get. And they do a lot of the foundational work for me, and then we see if I need to be used at that point. Because sometimes we can just go through some of these drainage, fascia, kind of water restructuring, and a little bit of electromagnetic input to you guys, and then the system can take over with you just learning to change your own habits and behavior and allowing your body to get the signals it wants and redoing what needs to be done. If I'm needed after the 4th or 5th month of that, we bring me in for kind of the labs and the brain maps, unless it's autism or my manager will decide. So drrimka.com, DRRIMKA.com. I'm the only Stephanie Rimka in the world. So if you put that name in, it's pretty easy. I own every domain related to that name. And on that website, it'll lead you into what the services are, if I'm offering any retreats. I have links on my social media. I have courses as well. So there's a lot of online courses people can take that are, some are just DIY and some that are group processes that you would have like Zooms with me once or twice a month and go through a e-learning center and then I answer the questions. And I do teach about, I have some that are, strong carnivore, because I've been doing that because I like it for about 6 years. So I've taught thousands of women and focus on a lot of women. But it's really about a reset of their nervous system and just stopping stuff from coming in, slowing down, balancing their hormones, resetting their nervous system, teaching them vagal activation, giving them tools for that so we can actually heal. Because once you usually do that, like the body knows what it's doing, you're just never letting it chill.
Yeah, the anti-inflammatory reflex gets turned off.
Yeah, it's just like boom. It's like, and mold can do that. Parasite, there's lots of things that turn that on, right? Emotional trauma turns on, right? So we have to approach it many ways. And I just make them aware of this. Like, what if you're not broken? What if it's not that? What if we just need to slow down? Let's do this together. And I teach them things that their doctor never taught them. And I have a second course, a master's course. It's kind of a Jack Kruse light for women. I kind of take what he does and I make it so 60, 70-year-old women understand it. And like, that's who will have the fastest response. These 70-year-olds, it's unbelievable what happens to them when you start putting battery power back into their system. And the whole system changes and their life has changed they respond faster than a 40-year-old. It's really interesting. Yeah. So I do take patients, I have health coaches, and I have courses. And I'm working on another retreat. I did an African safari. I think I'm going to do another one because there's nothing like going to Africa and doing this with me. And I work on energetics and sound healing and different stuff there.
Is it a women's only retreat?
No, the retreats are co-ed. I might do one with kids though. Like I picked a place last time that was an open camp and animals could come through and the liability was a little bit touched. If I let kids come, because I would like to do that, I would have to pick a different camp. That's all. And they're echo. There's like no electricity. Like I don't want, it's not luxury, but it's very, very comfortable. You have a bed and bathrooms and stuff, but it's very purposeful. There's no electricity. There's no Wi-Fi. You can't be on a computer or a phone. It's not, we have an emergency, satellite phone number for your kids, but that's it. I want real disconnection and real connection to nature and yourself. Again, that's the only way to sometimes really reset the system, is to go away. And I'm also working on a microdosing, like psilocybin kind of retreat company as well. So I've got a few things going in the works, but it's all at drrimka.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thanks for coming on the show. And hopefully we can have you back on again next year and see what you've been up to with all the collagen and stuff.
Yeah, we did a collagen trigger post and it is what it is. Right?
There you go.
I like to trigger. I just want to be a little disruptive, because if you don't disrupt people's current thought patterns, they can never expand. I do provocate a little bit on purpose because somebody's got to, right?
What? No, I've never noticed that.
Hey, if you don't, they're going to stay stuck in the quicksand, right?
That's right. I mean, anyone worth a grain of salt in your life will tell you the truth. But it's been a pleasure. I can tell
Thank
you're
you.
really passionate. You're operating from a place of integrity. So thank you. And we will put all your contact information up on the website.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you.